What is up, guys and girls? The first topic I have today is should the Patriots move on from Matty P and Joe Judge? Now, after a really rough season, honestly, the offense didn't look good. I mean, what, 15 out of the 17 games that they play? Like, Mac Jones, he didn't really look all that great. And, I mean, honestly, the offense looked almost unwatchable for majority of the year. But it's hard to say that somebody will be fired. I mean, like off of first glance, I would say yeah, they deserve to be fired and all that. But I mean, that takes out the human part of the game. Is really a lot of people don't know how close Matty P and Joe Judge are to Bill Belichick, and I personally think your best chance of winning is with Bill Belichick. So I don't think you should get rid of him. Why? But on the other hand, yeah, the offense looks so bad. I personally think what they should do is they should move Matt Patricia back up into the up top and just watch kind of like take a Ernie Adams role, like as a special advisor of sorts. And then Joe Judge, honestly, he should be moved back to special teams. The special teams was amazing under him, and it has been absolutely garbage otherwise. And then maybe go get. I think the names right now that are floating around is Cliff Kingsbury and what's his name, Bill O'Brien. I'm sure there's a few other ones that could be decent. Like I would be fine if you just promoted Nick Caley up and just have him be an offensive coordinator. But you have to have a coordinator this year. You can't say like they're like offensive assistants or whatever the case is as last year. People want names, and if they're going to be performing 10-7, 9-8, 8-9, you kind of have to please some people. I know yesterday Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft had a meeting, and the reports out of that meeting says there will be offensive changes, and there's no persuasion going on with Robert Kraft. So that means Bill Belichick knows, which of course he knows. If random people throughout the world knows that the offense sucked, you don't think the greatest head coach of all time knows? Yeah. But yeah, I'm a huge Patriots fan, so it's pretty important that they get a move on pretty quick. Hopefully before this airs. That and then but that goes into another thing. Tom Brady. Will he come back to the Patriots? I don't think so. The I think there's really going to be two, maybe three major quarterbacks on the move. Ki- I wouldn't say major, but another quarterback on the move would be Jimmy G. But it's interesting to see where Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers goes. So, I mean, some teams that I would like to probably suggest maybe would be Miami, Vegas, maybe the LA Rams or the 49ers would be pretty fun. But with 49ers, I have something later that I want to discuss about them. I don't think that he'll go to the Rams or 49ers. There's been a lot of reports that he wants to stay on the East Coast, so that makes me really think that he'll go to Miami. But it's NFL and Brady. You never know what he'll actually do. Vegas would be fun just because Josh McDaniels back. But I could really see him going to Miami, join up with McDaniel, and just throw the football to Waddle and Tyreek. That sounds like a good day. Rogers is kind of harder just because I don't follow him as much. I ultimately think he just ends up back with the Packers. He seems to, if he doesn't retire, I feel like he'll just stay with the Packers. Now, if he doesn't, again, the kind of same teams would want him as Brady, 49ers, and Rams. I can see both of them going for Rogers. Uh, kind of depends on what happens with that situation. 49ers and Aaron Rodgers would be great. They just need, if they had just had a dynamic, like a great quarterback, because right now Kyle Shanahan's making stars out of Jimmy G and Brock Purdy. So it's kind of be interesting to see how that what happens with that all of that. Then the Rams, like, sure they have Matthew Stafford, but how much longer? How injured is he? Is the question. Because I mean he missed majority of this year. They started off at 4-0, and then they won like 2 games after that. But like I said, ultimately I believe Rodgers will just stay with the Packers. It tends to be the thing that wants tends to be the thing that he does. And then so say let's just bring up a hypothetical. Say that Brady goes to Miami, Rodgers does go to the Raiders. What happens with Derek Carr? Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr is a quarterback that can throw the ball, doesn't always make the best decisions. I don't know if you can win with him. I maybe like the Raiders' offense was pretty bad this year, and it's kind of interesting. Like they had Derek Carr and Devontae Adams loves Derek Carr, so I think that's a reason to keep him. But that would be very interesting to see exactly what happens. I think like they have a week or two after the Super Bowl to decide on what they're going to do with him. And from all the reports and everything, it sounds like that he Josh McDaniels doesn't like him. So I mean, I don't understand what's going to happen with the Raiders. I don't believe Sean McVay would want him with the Rams, even though he's now this is going to be an insult to Matthew Stafford, but even though he's similar to Matthew Stafford, clearly Matthew Stafford's a lot better quarterback. I mean, the only difference is Stafford was on the terrible terrible Lions for years and years. So I mean, it'd be very interesting to see what happens this offseason. There's going to be a lot of moves. It'll be interested to see how Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy G, Lamar Jackson, even Derek Carr. I mean, heck, if Brady goes to Miami, do they keep Tua? I mean, has had 2, 3 concussions just this year, so it kind of begs to the question of what's going to happen with that team. Of course, in that division, the Bills are clearly the number one team. I mean, they're probably in the top 3 team in the NFL. The Jets, they seem to have lost their quarterback, and the Patriots, mm, I don't, I don't know. Mac Jones, he played really good this last game, but I don't think he played good enough. I think he missed a lot of things. He had 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, so that's kind of it's interesting to see where that goes. I ultimately think that they're going to be looking for a quarterback this offseason. If they can't find one, of course, they'll be fine rolling Mac Jones out. But I think they should really look for a quarterback. They're going to need somebody who can push the ball down the field and actually makes good decisions while doing so. It seemed like most of the season with Mac Jones is it was quick passes close to the line of scrimmage, and he made a lot of them. His completion percentage was like 71% for the year, and it's because most of his passes were, I mean, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, if not behind the line of scrimmage. I remember in the first Bills game, I think they only threw it downfield like 3 times, and there's a whole I could probably do a whole hour on Mac Jones. He seems like he seems like a fine person. He seems fine and all that, but his little temper tantrums on the field pretty often this year, and the fact that he turns the ball over a lot. Coming into the NFL, he was supposed to be like the most pro wet ready player, and he just seems to be the farthest one off. He's, I mean, on the plus side, he does seem like a good person, but I mean, we're in the game of football. Well, we need to win, and I personally don't think Mac Jones is there yet, but that doesn't mean with a real offensive coordinator, I, which is another question mark, is will they get a real offensive coordinator? Can Mac Jones be better? In Bill Belichick's last press conference, he said something about like Mac Jones can play football in this league. What does that mean? Does that mean just like as a backup? Does that mean with the Patriots? What does that mean? I know there was a lot of speculation going around about like what 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 exactly did that mean. So the next month or so, it's probably going to be pretty important with the Patriots this season. Another team that's going to have an interesting offseason would be the Cardinals. Now, I don't know, like they just fired Cliff Kingsbury and the GM Kimes. Yeah, and I, I've heard some things. I don't know if it's true. I probably should. I would check that, but it's all fine and dandy. I heard Kyler Murray might not be back next year, and there's rumors that they want to trade Hopkins maybe before the start of next season. So if that's the case, it kind of makes me think that Kyler Murray won't be back next year because why would they get rid of his best weapon? Some like one thing, just because I am a Patriots fan, that I would like to see, and they're going to have a kind of down year anyway. If Kyler Murray's out, they're not winning any games with Colt McCoy or whoever else they throw out there. It'd be kind of interesting to see Gerard Mayo get it off a head coach gig. If you don't know, he's a unnamed defensive coordinator with the Patriots. And then if he can find a good offensive coordinator, maybe like a Nathaniel Hackett from Broncos. He didn't work as a head coach with the Broncos, but he he is a I mean supposedly he is a pretty good offensive coordinator. So something like that, or I mean, I'm trying to think of some like offensive coordinators that could possibly go with him. Heck, he could bring Nick Caley with him. So yeah, that would be interesting. One thing that should be interesting to watch. JJ Watt retired, so they're gonna have to figure out a way to replace him. They got rid of Chandler Jones last year, and now they're going to have to get rid of. Now they're going to have to replace JJ Watt, and I mean, I don't think he played the greatest. Besides the last game, he played phenomenal, but that's still somebody that you have to replace. But if Gerard Mayo gets a head coach gig, I think it would either be with the Cardinals or the Texans. I could very well see the Texans going with Gerard Mayo since Casario, uh, I mean, he's with the Texans still. I have to assume that he's familiar with Gerard Mayo, and I don't know of any other offensive or any other head coaches that I would want to be to like for a quarterback because most likely CJ Stroud will go to the Texans unless they love Davis Mills, which I don't think they do, considering they benched him a few times this year. And then so there's so many teams off the top of my head. I'm going to just name the teams that need a head coach or offensive coordinator this year. Would be offensive coordinator would be Patriots, head coach and offensive coordinator, and well, I'll just say head coach, since most likely the head coach will fire everybody. Otherwise, head coach would be the Cardinals, possibly the Rams, Texans. I mean, who else? Who else needs one? I'm trying to think. Those are the easy ones off the top of my head. I know there's probably like three or four more, and as soon as this is over, I'm going to be like, "Well, duh, why didn't I say this?" But whatever. It's Sean McVay. Like, what's going to happen with there? It's so interesting this offseason. Speaking of Sean McVay, I've seen multiple reports about how the Rams might part ways with McVay, which, unless there's like some crazy thing like no one knows about, or like some like people they just don't get along or something, that's a stupid move. Who are you going to bring in to replace him? A college coach or something? Yeah. Maybe if you bring Jim Harbaugh back, maybe that, but I don't know. Like the Rams don't really have any draft picks to pick from, unless like any high draft picks. It's kind of hard to react to the Rams team since they did lose Matthew Stafford pretty early, and with them they were undefeated. Or they might have lost one game, but I'm pretty sure they were undefeated. Honestly, like the talent is really. I mean, if they have good talent like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, who knows how much longer Aaron Donald is going to be playing? I believe I read that he's going to play 1 or 2 more years. So I mean, that's another interesting kind of thing to kind of discuss maybe next week or something. Just go through all the teams that need a head coach. What are some possible coaches that could fill in? I mean, this NFL season has been pretty weird. Not as weird as the COVID year, but it's been different. A lot of reports out right now, which of course there's going to be tons of reports that won't come true. One of the craziest things that happened over the year was that Damar Hamlin's injury, or I guess hit, which the hit wasn't outrageous. It was just a regular football play by T. Higgins. I don't think there was anything crazy about it. T. Higgins was just trying to make a play, and who- anyone who is going at T. Higgins or just complete dummies. You should anything future that they say, just ignore it because what they say is stupid. The hit was, it didn't look like anything. That Demar got right up and then he stumbled back, and everybody knows the story of all that happened. I'm so glad that he's out of the hospital and seems to be doing pretty well. I hope the Bills give him a job outside of football because I don't think it's probably the best move to get back on a football field, and I don't think he will. But I do hope I mean, he's a 6th round pick. He doesn't have that much money from guaranteed money from his draft. But I hopefully they give him a job as something. I mean, you can give him a job as motivational speaker, kind of like Ryan Shazier. I mean, they gave him a job with the Steelers after they let him stay on the team until he can reap the insurance. And I mean, I think that's the right thing to do. You have billionaire owners, I mean, giving thousands, if not millions of dollars to players that gave it all and almost died on the field or almost got paralyzed on the field in Brian Shazier's case. One thing I want to talk about before before we get too close to the ending is I mentioned something about how the 49ers should possibly go with Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, which I don't think either are really. I can see Aaron Rodgers going there. I can't see Brady going there, just because he has said that he wants to stay on the East Coast. But one thing that would make me super happy over anything else in the world, and that is Lamar Jackson going to the 49ers. Can you imagine a team coached by Kyle Shanahan with LJ, Kittle, Debo, and Christian McCaffrey on the team? I don't know how they'll do it cap wise. Lamar may have to take a little pay cut, maybe, or spread out his cap hit throughout multiple years. But I feel like that team would be incredible. Kyle Shanahan's. I mean, he just drafted Trey Lance, which you could on Trey Lance. You can just say you could probably trade him to a team. You probably won't get much, maybe a third, maybe a fourth. But unless you really think he's a player that can provide you a future, go get Lamar Jackson. If, of course, Ravens has to get rid of him first or not re-sign him or franchise tag him. Even if you franchise, you can just trade him. Heck, trade him Lance and I don't know, a pick for him. But what the 49ers defense is elite. If their offense was elite too, like how can you not say that they make it to the Super Bowl? Of course, injuries, that would be the thing, but that team would be the scariest thing since fried rice. Oh my goodness. Debo, Chris McCaffrey. I mean, I was thinking about moves that could possibly happen this offseason, and one of them that excited me the most was this. I don't think it will happen. I really don't, because it's the NFL and stuff like that almost never happens outside of what the 2007 Patriots year, whenever like Randy Moss came in and just started torching them. And I can just imagine what could happen in that offense with the defense on fire. My goodness, they would win games similar to '07. This next, is there anything else we can talk about in the NFL? The wild card games are coming up, but by the time this is aired, the wild card games would have already been played. But I remember tweeting out something about who I think will win and all of that jazz. Hopefully, by time this hopefully by the time this airs and all the games have been played, I can say, "Yep, I told you. This is exactly what's going to happen." But just in case, I'm going to go over my predictions for wild card, and then next week I can go over see how wrong or right my predictions were, and we'll see how it goes. NFL wild card round predictions. First off, I have the Dolphins at the Bills, which is a crazy game since they played just a couple weeks ago, a few weeks ago. Now, as of yesterday, Tua is out. Skylar Thompson will be starting for the Dolphins. I just don't see how you beat the Bills. I was surprised that the Patriots came so close to beating the Bills. The Bills won. I mean, they had two kickoff returns for touchdowns. Other than that, I mean, it's a really close game. I mean, really, other than those two kickoffs, you can say like the Patriots could win, would have won, and if they would have played the Bills again. I just don't see how you beat the Bills. The defense is playing really good. Tre'Davious White is a baller. He's just an absolute baller. The offense, of course, Josh Allen. I mean, he's second best quarterback in the NFL. I could argue that he's the best. You have Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs. I wish they would get a better running back. Sorry, I think it's Singletary that's the quarterback and the running back right now. If they had a little bit of a better running back, I would be scared of their running game. But with Josh Allen, with a combination of Josh Allen and the running game is a threat. I just don't see the Dolphins beating the Bills. I don't I don't see it at all. I don't know how you could argue that way at all. It's Skylar Thompson. Like I just don't see it at all. I have the Bills winning 34-21. Next up, Giants at the Vikings. Vikings, the king of the close game slash comeback. It seems like most of the games that they were leading, and then they just won a close game, or they were leading majority of it, then was losing, and then won at the end. The, so if it's a close game, I I'll give it to the Vikings. But the Giants are playing incredible under table. It's been a really shocking turn of events with Dable. I mean, because last year with Joe Judge, the Giants were garbage. So that says something about Joe Judge maybe as a head coach. I'm not the biggest fan of Daniel Jones or anything, but he seems. I mean, he's playing pretty decent. Of course, he's playing pretty decent, but I don't think he's enough. I think the Vikings will win at 28-24. Of course, a close game. Next up, Ravens at. I think it's Ravens at the Bengals. Yeah, because the Bengals won the division. Kind of got screwed over in the playoff scenario stuff. With, I mean, I say it's better to screw over one team than every team. That's what I think. It's better to screw over one team than what 18 teams, or I guess it would be 14 teams, 16 teams. I'll do math eventually. Next up, you have the Ravens and Bengals. Joe Burrow, I think he's probably the third best quarterback in the NFL. Of course, everybody knows it's Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. I think you could put any of them anywhere. Uh, I think Burrow's set at three. I think Josh Allen and Mahomes are better, but I wouldn't be mad if you put Josh Allen one, Mahomes two, or vice versa. I know the consensus is Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then Burrow. So they got the short end of the stick with the playoff scenarios, and they had a really good celebration with a coin flip after Joe Mixon's touchdown. So you know that they feel slighted, and they're going to be coming into this season on fire, or this postseason just ready to go. But it is hard to beat a team three times in a season, let alone beating a team back to back. That's what the Bengals will have to do if they want to proceed and win it all, since they were in the playoffs in the Super Bowl last year. Lamar Jackson will not be back, I don't think, for the Ravens. There's been reports that he could be. I don't think so. I think if he didn't play on Wednesday, so I don't think he'll be back. So that's a hit. So I have the Bengals winning big, 35-14. So we also have the Seahawks at the 49ers. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have a heavy thunderstorm, so that's going to be interesting to see if that changes the game or anything. Looking at, I haven't watched too many Seahawks games this year. I do know Geno Smith has been playing actually pretty good. The team seems to be kind of rebuilding. I just, part of me wants to say like they have a good coach. Let's see if they can keep on going. But I just I just do not think that they'll be the match for the 49ers. I have the 49ers winning 24-17. I think that 49ers defense is just going to be too much for Geno Smith. I mean, that defense is too much for a lot of quarterbacks. Uh, of course, the downside to the 49ers is you have Brock Purdy starting, which he's been playing pretty good this year, but he's still an unproven asset. You don't know exactly what's going to come about. I I'll give it to the 49ers. They have Debo, CMC, Kittle. They got this one. Then next up, we have the Chargers at the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, after a kind of not a rough rookie season, but it wasn't the greatest rookie season ever. He's having a heck of a second year, though. The Jaguars snuck into the playoffs and they won the division, and they are hosting the Chargers, which is crazy to hear. They haven't been the Jaguars haven't really been good since that one Saxonville year. I normally would go with the Chargers here. I like Justin Herbert. I like many people on the Chargers. I wish J.C. Jackson would have played more, but I am going to give this a upset, and the Jaguars are going to win. They're going to be on to something special. By special, I mean probably one game, and then they'll probably lose next week. But I have the Jaguars winning 27-24. And then last up in the wild card round, which is probably going to be the game of the week. I think it's played on Monday. Dallas Cowboys versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady slipped into the playoffs with a what 8-9, 9-8 record. Like I said, Brady slipped in, but you can never underestimate Brady. The Cowboys, on the other hand, do have a high flying defense. I mean, the Cowboys defense, particularly Micah Hyde and Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a baller. He's he's probably my pick for defensive player of the year. But the Cowboys do have a tough hand. Dak Prescott has not been playing good uh, particularly this end of the season, and with that, the I mean I know the Bucks haven't been playing all that great, but if it's a close game, you have to give it to Brady, and I think the Buccaneers win it 23-21 in a close game where Brady has to come back at the end of the game and win it. And that is my wild card predictions for the wild card, which is so I'm recording this Thursday and I will release it Wednesday. So all of these games will have already been played. So we can either laugh at my predictions or we can say, oh, he was actually right, or most likely it'll be 50-50, or the scores will just be completely off. But the reason why I started this podcast is to talk to players, not necessarily about football. Of course, we will talk about football because football and just sports in general are very important to most of the world. I mean, you have soccer being or football being the world's biggest sport. You have American football, which is USA's biggest sport. I mean, basketball, and then there's a lot of there's a lot of talk about pickleball, which I don't fully understand, but eh, if people like sports, they like it. It's a-okay. So one of the things I would like to do is highlight players, kind of get a little bit of their backstory, and hopefully one day have the players on the podcast, talk to them, s- and actually see what they like, things that they like to do, hobbies, things that like they support, like charities or friends' businesses, stuff like that. Um, and I just ask a lot of interview type questions about them. That's not just a general, how do you feel about football or whatever. And so this week's episode, I want to talk about Jacoby Myers. He's probably he's one of my favorite Patriots players, and he's one of my favorite players on in the NFL, which he is going to be a free agent this offseason, which is technically now. I'm hoping the Patriots re-sign him to a 3 to 4 year deal because I think he is a piece that you can have in a championship team. Although I don't know if he can be the number one piece. He pl- so how we're going to do this is I'll just talk about kind of like his lead up going and then getting drafted and then all of that. I know he runs a book club. He's huge into books. So that makes me think that I wonder if he would have been a teacher or something along those lines if he didn't get into the NFL. I know he had a degree in business management or sports management, but yeah, he went to college at North Carolina State from 2015 to 2018. He was actually He was actually brought on to college football as a quarterback. He went, he went to high school in near it's just east of Atlanta, Georgia. It's a small place called Lithonia, I think, Georgia. He went to a high school called Arabian Mountain High School, where he played like I want to say he played quarterback and free safety. Um, th- like going like this the college that was scouting him. This is his college scouting report. Not a big body quarterback, will need to add strength to his frame to withstand hits, very good mobility, solid lower body strength. Shows good poise with pressure, escapes well, is in control, and keeps eyes downfield or tucks and runs. Good accuracy on deep balls and crossing routes. Good and consistent over the top release. Above average release with good spin. Arm strength gives him the ability to push the ball down the field. So, bottom line, Myra has a big upside due to his athletic ability, hence why he got moved to wide receiver. Above average arm strength. I mean, that's probably why the Patriots have used him to throw 2 touchdowns. Can develop into a good mid-major quarterback. Strength and passing development will give him an opportunity to be successful. Now you might say he's athletic for sure. I think he's 6'2", probably 205. He's around there. Um, like I said, he went to college football at North Carolina State from 2015 to 2018. He was moved to wide receiver after his redshirt freshman year. Jacoby Brissett was actually the quarterback, which is kind of funny since Brissett played for the Patriots also. So after his freshman year, he got moved to wide receiver. The Wolfpack only had 2 wide receivers on their team, and if they already had a quarterback, they asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, it gives me an opportunity to play." And that's one of the best. I mean, his attitude towards everything is just phenomenal. You want those types of players on your team. In his last season, Myers actually broke Torrey Holt's single season reception record for NC State with 92 receptions, which is crazy from a quarterback to a wide receiver and breaking records by the time he got out. His full college career stats is 2016, he had 7 games played, 13 receptions, 158 yards. Of course, sophomore year, I mean, it's really his first year playing college football in a new position. Makes sense. 2017, 12 games, played 88 receptions, 727 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And then in 2018, like I said, 12 games played, 92 receptions, 1,047 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He had one less touchdown, but he had 300 more yards. He went undrafted. The Patriots signed him in after the draft, and a big part of the reason why he chose the Patriots over other teams is because he wanted to go to a team that drafted a wide receiver high in the draft. Thankfully, or not so thankfully, the Patriots drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round. So in a way, it kind of worked out because I don't know if you would want to have spent a first rounder on Jacoby, but you got a good blocking wide receiver, which I don't know if you want that, and Jacoby Myers, which Jacoby Myers is a good blocking type wide receiver also. So no shade on N'Keal Harry. He's a monster of a player, like of a person. It hasn't worked out too well in the NFL, in my opinion, due to like the separation issues. There were a lot of reports coming out of Patriots about why Myers was so successful so early. It comes from just his natural ability, but also his approach to the game. He made sure to ask tons of questions and actually listen to the information. Um, he studied his playbook, went to meetings, film reviews, and on the field he learned a lot, especially from Julian Edelman, which is Julian Edelman is probably my second all-time favorite player in NFL ever. He made it. One thing that I found very interesting whenever I was kind of looking him up a little bit is he made a point to listen to coaches during moments that didn't actually involve him. He like if two other play or if like the coach was talking to another player, he would actually listen in, not to be nosy or anything, but just to learn so he could learn as much as possible. Which I think, I mean, ideally you would want every single player on your team to do that. As a rookie, he played 15 games and had 41 targets for 26 receptions, 359 yards, and no touchdowns. His first receiving touchdown was actually in 2021 after being in the NFL for 2 years. He holds the record, well, I guess he held the record for most receiving yards without a touchdown in the NFL. After going for 1,517 yards, breaking Gerald Riggs' record, the record was broken versus the Carolina Panthers while Cam Newton was a quarterback, which is kind of cool since Cam Newton used to play for the Panthers. The next week, Jacoby Myers would score his first touchdown versus a blowout win versus Cleveland Browns. I'm sure there's so much more to Jacoby Myers, and like I said, I hope he stays with the Patriots. But wherever he goes, I will 100% be following him. I think he's one of the he's a really solid player. I think he could be like a Julian Edelman light, I believe, but his work ethic and his attitude is just beyond anyone else. He's one of my favorite players. But thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, you can follow me on Twitter at Beyond Just Stats. If you want to ask questions for next week's episode, you can email beyondthestatsmail at gmail.com. And also, if you could just tell one person about this podcast, that would mean the world to me. This podcast is going to grow based on word of mouth. And if you have anything else, just mail and in the subject line, just kind of give me a brief 1 to 3 words on what it's about. But I hope you have a great week. Hopefully the wild card predictions are right. And I'll see you next week.